And how have the modelers responded to this feedback on their models?
Yeah, so we are now in a joint. We have the modelers engaged in one joint publication, and I think, for one reason, we found like one model we really behaved very strange. So we digged into it and actually then were able to find the modeler found a mistake in there. So they were very happy. So now that's been updating already. So that's and I think bringing in new data for this was like the runoff coefficient that became larger than 1 in some region. Obviously that's not possible. You can't have more runoff than you have precipitation, and there must be, and then they found a mistake. So that's and unless you had such a detailed way of comparison, because what we then did is to based on the observation, we made a gridded data set. So if there were 2 catchment in one grid cell, it was weighted average depending on the area. So from this we transformed that into a gridded set of observation. Of course the quality of that is and how representative it is for each grid cells varies depending on where the grid cells are, where the catchment. So we are working on trying to link the grid cells to the catchment, for instance, not by the gauging station, but by the centroid of the catchment and things like that, to make that a better match. So that's one thing, that you can detect obvious mistakes in the models. Apart from that, I think, and I also see that overall we think they are doing well in reproducing. They're doing. We don't do the like the annual maximum. We do the 5 percentile highest and in both ends, the Q95 and the Q5, to avoid comparing to the absolute highest and lowest, because obviously measurements errors. It's a bit more difficult if you go to the annual maximum. So we do the Q95 and the Q5. We see overall the models are better on the weather side, and I think that's partly because when it's all, and they're better in the weather parts and they are better in the weather regions, and I think partly that's because when it's all wet, either because it's been raining a lot or because there are little stores. When there comes new rain, it's easier to model the response to the rain. When you have a more complicated basins in the south, where large aquifers, you might even have delineated your catchment boundary correctly. It's much more complicated you're keeping track of the water balance on a much longer time scale, so it can even be over-year storage that you have to account for a correct way. And obviously that's where the models will, they differ from the observations.